My stepkids refused to respect me, worshipping their real dad as the only parent who mattered. I cut off privileges, packed their bags, and made him take them. I'm Mark, 42, male, a dad to two amazing kids, Maya, 12, female, and Andrew, 9, male. Their mom, Sarah, passed away 4 years ago. Cancer, the kind that doesn't give you time to make sense of it. Losing her nearly broke me. But when you've got two kids who still need breakfast every morning, you don't get the luxury of falling apart for long. For a long time, it was just the three of us. I learned how to braid hair, pack lunches that didn't look like survival rations, and fake smiles when my daughter missed her mom too much to sleep. I didn't think I'd ever want another relationship. But then Tiffany came along. Tiffany was like a warm spring day after years of winter. She was kind, smart, and she got it. She was divorced, raising two kids of her own, Jason, 16, and Chloe, 14, both polite, both well-mannered when I met them. When we decided to move in together, I honestly thought we were going to nail this whole blended family thing. Maya and Andrew were thrilled. Maya talked nonstop about having a big sister to share secrets with, and Andrew couldn't wait to play video games with Jason. The morning we moved in, my son was bouncing around the living room yelling, "We finally have a full house!" He didn't mean it like the TV show, he meant it like his heart finally felt full again. The first week was picture perfect. Jason and Chloe were quiet but polite. They helped carry boxes, said thank you, and didn't complain once. I thought, this is it. This is what a second chance looks like. The first Friday night we had everyone together for dinner, I decided to cook. Nothing fancy, steak, potatoes, and corn on the cob. It smelled amazing, and even Tiffany said the kitchen felt like home. We all sat down, plates steaming, and for a few minutes it was exactly how I'd imagined it. Laughter, small talk, Andrew telling an over-the-top story about a frog he found at school. Then Jason, between bites, leaned back in his chair and said, "My dad makes better steak. He seasons it right." The table went quiet. Tiffany shot him a glare, but he just kept chewing like nothing happened. I didn't raise my voice. I put my fork down and looked straight at him. "Good for your dad," I said calmly. "Maybe one day he can come teach me. But until then, this is what's on the table. You're welcome to eat it or not." The kid blinked like he wasn't expecting pushback. Chloe's fork froze midair. Andrew looked between us nervously. I smiled. Not angry, just steady. "Eat up, son," I added. "It's going to get cold." Tiffany tried to lighten the mood after that, talking about weekend plans, but I could tell Jason didn't like that I hadn't backed down. I didn't need him to like me, though. I needed him to respect me. After dinner, Maya and Chloe went upstairs to compare playlists, and Andrew started unpacking a small box he'd brought from his old room. It was labeled Mom. Inside were photos, a couple of letters, and a snow globe she'd given him before she got too sick to leave bed. He took out a framed photo of her and asked, "Dad, can I hang this up?" "Of course," I said. "She'd like that." He picked a spot on the hallway wall right by the stairs where everyone could see it. The photo was simple. Sarah sitting on the grass laughing, her hair short from chemo but her smile still outshining the sun. While Andrew was straightening the frame, Jason walked by with his phone in his hand and muttered, "Why keep old pictures up? Kinda weird." I stopped what I was doing and turned toward him. My voice was even, but it dropped an octave. "Because she mattered," I said. "And in this house, we respect people who mattered." He didn't say anything after that, just stared for a second, then walked off. Andrew went quiet too. I crouched down next to him and said, "Hey, you did good hanging it there. She'd be proud of you." He nodded and hugged me, the kind of quick, tight hug that hits harder than any words. I should have felt peace. For the first time in years, the house was full of life again. But there was this tiny crack somewhere in the foundation, something small, almost invisible, but I could feel it. Still, I told myself it was just new family tension. We'd get past it, we had to. I didn't know then that some lessons come the hard way. I didn't know that respect, once you let it slide, never really comes back the same. 6 months after we all moved in together, the tone of the house changed. It wasn't one big fight or dramatic moment. It was small things piling up like dust you don't notice until it's everywhere. Jason and Chloe, once polite and quiet, started acting like every rule was up for negotiation. If I told Jason to take the trash out, he'd look right at me and say, "I'll wait for Mom." If I asked Chloe to put her laundry in the basket, she'd nod and then not do it. But if Tiffany asked, suddenly everything got done. At first I thought maybe I was imagining it. Blended families take time, right? But one afternoon I came home from work and overheard something that stopped me cold. The kids were in the living room. Jason and Chloe were sitting on the couch, phones in hand, and Maya and Andrew were on the floor building with Legos. Jason leaned forward and said, "You guys know you don't have to listen to him, right?" Chloe giggled. Yeah, he's so strict. Our dad lets us stay up late and eat whatever we want. Andrew looked unsure. But Dad said we have to. Jason cut him off. Your dad just likes bossing people around. You don't have to do everything he says. I stood there for a second behind the wall and felt my blood go cold. Then I stepped into the room. Jason, I said evenly, say that again. He froze. Chloe's face went pale. Maya and Andrew turned around fast. You heard me, I continued. Go on. You were giving my kids parenting advice. Let's hear it. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Let me make something real clear, I said, my voice steady but hard. You two don't ever tell my kids they don't have to listen to me. You're not their parents, and you're not mine. This house has one set of rules, and everyone follows them. Understand? Chloe nodded fast. Jason mumbled something like, yeah, fine. Good, I said. Then knock it off. I didn't yell. I didn't need to. The way Jason's jaw tightened told me he hated that I'd called him out. That night I told Tiffany what happened. She sighed and rubbed her temples like I'd told her the Wi-Fi was down. They're just adjusting, Mark, she said. It's a lot of change. You can't expect them to respect you overnight. 6 months is overnight? I asked. They'll come around, she said softly. Just give it time. I wanted to believe her, but something in my gut said she was wrong. The following weeks were full of little power plays. Jason would wait until Tiffany got home before doing anything I asked. Chloe would conveniently forget what I told her. Maya started testing me too, saying things like, but Jason said it's fine if I skip chores. I'd just look at her and say, Jason doesn't make the rules here, sweetheart. I do. Then came the family trip. Tiffany had planned a weekend at the lake, a chance for all of us to bond. I loaded the car, packed snacks, made sure everyone had their swimsuits. Jason climbed into the passenger seat, earbuds already in, hood up. The first day went okay. The younger kids swam, Tiffany sunbathed, and Jason mostly sulked. But that evening when we were grilling by the cabin, Jason started in again. Mom, can we go home? He said loudly. This is boring. Dad would have taken us somewhere fun. He doesn't make us do lame family stuff. The way he said Dad made it clear who he meant and who he didn't. I kept flipping the burgers, pretending not to hear at first. But when Maya started looking at me like I'd done something wrong, I turned around. Jason, I said, you're welcome to sit in the car if family time is too hard for you. But while you're out here, you're going to be respectful. You got that? He gave a fake laugh. Whatever, man. You can't tell me what to do. You're not my dad. Tiffany jumped in before I could respond. Jason, enough. He threw his hands up. What? I'm just saying. I said enough, she snapped. The rest of dinner was silent except for the sound of bugs and the crackle of the fire. When we packed up to go home the next day, Jason didn't say a word to me the entire drive. When we pulled into the driveway, I told the kids to grab their bags. Maya and Andrew followed instructions right away. Chloe and Jason went straight upstairs like guests leaving a bad hotel. Tiffany and I stood in the kitchen afterward. She looked tired. Maybe this trip wasn't such a great idea, she said quietly. Maybe, I said. Or maybe it showed us what's actually going on. She didn't answer. That night, after everyone went to bed, I stood in the hallway looking at that framed photo of Sarah on the wall. It caught a little bit of moonlight, and I thought about the kind of home she wanted for our kids. One, built on love, yes, but also on respect. I wasn't sure which one we still had. Still, I kept telling myself it would get better, that if I stayed calm, fair, and firm, they'd see I wasn't the enemy. But deep down, a seed had been planted. Not anger, just a quiet kind of frustration that grows roots when no one's looking, and once it starts, it doesn't stop. The next couple of months felt like living with strangers who happened to share your address. Jason and Chloe didn't just ignore me. They acted like I wasn't even there. If I walked into a room, they'd lower their voices or leave. If I spoke, they'd glance at each other like I'd interrupted something private. At first, I tried to keep the peace. I'd remind them about chores, ask how school was going, keep my tone even. But their responses were either silence or one-word answers said without looking up from their phones. Then it got worse. They'd deliberately wait until Tiffany got home to start conversations or walk right past me if I told them something needed doing. Once I asked Jason to mow the lawn before the weekend. He shrugged and said, "I'll do it when Mom tells me." That one sentence told me everything. The house had split into sides, mine and theirs. One Saturday morning, I was outside cleaning the garage when I saw our neighbor, Mrs. Lawson, walking her dog. She was one of those older ladies who knew everyone on the block, always cheerful, always chatty. But that morning she looked nervous. "Hey, Mark," she said, tugging on her dog's leash. "Do you have a minute?" "Sure," I said, wiping my hands on a rag. She hesitated. I just wanted to check in. Everything all right at home?" That question stopped me cold. "Yeah," I said slowly. "Why?" She glanced toward the house, then back at me. "It's probably nothing. I ran into your stepkids the other day, Jason and Chloe. They were talking to my grandson out front and, they said a few things that worried me." "What kind of things?" She sighed. "They said you only let them eat at certain times, that you're really strict and that you don't let them relax or have fun. Jason said you treat them like soldiers or something." I felt the heat rush to my face. Not embarrassment, but anger. The kind that starts in your gut and spreads like fire. "Mrs. Lawson," I said, keeping my voice measured, "I appreciate you telling me, but that's complete nonsense." "I figured as much," she said quickly. "You've always seemed like a good dad. I just didn't want rumors going around." "Yeah," I said tightly. "Neither do I." She walked off, and I stood there for a minute, gripping that rag so hard it nearly tore. My stepkids were out there telling people I mistreated them, ruining my name in a neighborhood I'd worked years to build trust in. That wasn't going to slide. I marched inside. Jason and Chloe were in the living room watching TV, feet up on the coffee table like they owned the place. "Turn it off," I said. They ignored me. I stepped forward, hit the power button myself, and tossed the remote on the couch. "We're talking now." Jason rolled his eyes. "What now?" "Mrs. Lawson came by today," I said, staring him down. "She told me you've been telling people I starve you and treat you like prisoners. Care to explain?" Chloe's eyes darted to Jason. "We didn't—" "Don't lie to me," I snapped. "I know exactly what you said. I've done nothing but put food on the table, pay for your phones, your clothes, your sports crap, and this is how you repay me? By spreading garbage about me to the neighbors?" Jason leaned back, smirking. "Maybe if you weren't such a control freak, people wouldn't believe it." That smirk was a mistake. I stepped closer until we were eye to eye. "Listen carefully," I said quietly. "This is your last warning. If you pull one more stupid stunt like this, you'd better be ready for the consequences, and trust me, you won't like them." He stared at me but didn't speak. I could see his jaw working, like he wanted to say something but couldn't find the courage. Chloe whispered, "We were just joking." "Jokes end when they damage someone's reputation," I said. "And this one ends now." I turned and walked out before I said something I'd regret. That evening, Tiffany came into the garage where I was fixing a shelf. "I heard you yelled at the kids," she said. "I didn't yell," I said. "I confronted them. They told me you threatened them." I set the drill down and looked her in the eye. "Tiffany, they've been lying to people, telling the neighbors I mistreat them. That's not a misunderstanding. That's character assassination." She frowned. "They're teenagers, Mark. They exaggerate things. You can't take everything they say so seriously." "Exaggerate?" I said, my voice rising. "They told people I starve them. How much more exaggeration do you need before you call it what it is? Disrespect." She crossed her arms defensively. "They're still adjusting." "Stop saying that," I said sharply. "It's been almost a year. At some point they stop adjusting and start choosing how to act. And right now they're choosing to be disrespectful." Tiffany didn't respond. She just walked out, muttering something under her breath. That night the silence in the house felt heavier than ever. Maya and Andrew stayed in their rooms. Jason and Chloe laughed quietly behind closed doors, probably feeling like they'd won something. I sat on the couch in the dark, staring at the blank TV screen, listening to the hum of the refrigerator. My own house didn't feel like mine anymore. And for the first time I started wondering, maybe what this family needed wasn't more understanding. Maybe it needed consequences. That thought stayed with me for days, quiet, sharp, and growing louder. Then came the day it all fell apart. It was a Thursday afternoon. I got home early from work, expecting the usual chaos. Maya doing homework, Andrew building Lego towers, Jason glued to his phone. Instead, I walked into silence, not the peaceful kind, the kind that makes your stomach drop. I found Andrew in his room, sitting on the floor next to a pile of glass and water. His hands were shaking, and his eyes were red. "What happened, buddy?" I asked, crouching down. He pointed at the mess. "Jason?" He broke it. His voice cracked. He threw it. My stomach twisted. He threw what? Andrew picked up a small shard of glass from the carpet. I recognized it instantly. The snow globe, the one Sarah had given him before she passed. Inside it had been a tiny cabin and two little figures holding hands in the snow. Andrew had guarded that thing like treasure for years. Where is he? I asked. Upstairs, Andrew whispered. He said it was stupid to cry over it. I stood up slowly, every muscle in my body tightening like a rope about to snap. Jason was on the couch in the living room, controller in hand, eyes glued to the TV like nothing had happened. Jason, I said, my voice low. He didn't even look up. What? Turn it off. He sighed like I was ruining his evening and paused the game. What now? You broke Andrew's snow globe. He shrugged. Yeah, it fell. It didn't fall, I said. You threw it. Maybe I did, he said, smirking. He was being a baby about it. It's just a toy. I stepped closer. That snow globe was from his mother. You had no right to touch it. He leaned back on the couch, still smirking. Grow up. You can buy another one. That's what you're good for, right? For a second, everything went quiet in my head. I could hear the blood in my ears, the ticking of the wall clock, the faint sound of Chloe laughing upstairs. I took a deep breath. Stand up, I said. Why? Because I said so. He stood up, half laughing. What? You going to ground me? You can't even tell me what to do. I looked him dead in the eye. You're right, I said calmly. I'm not your dad. He froze. And you're not my son, I continued. So pack your things. Get ready to leave. His smirk faltered. What? You heard me. You don't respect me. You don't respect this house, and you sure as hell don't get to destroy something that belonged to my late wife. You can live with your dad since he's so much cooler. He laughed nervously, glancing toward the stairs. You're not serious! I've never been more serious. He looked at me for a long second, maybe waiting for me to yell or lose my temper, but I didn't. I just stood there, calm and solid, like the decision was already carved in stone. You can't kick me out, he said finally. I can, I said, and I will. He scoffed. Mom won't let you. Then she can go too if she thinks this is okay. He blinked, realizing too late that this wasn't a game. He stormed upstairs, muttering under his breath. I didn't follow. I went straight to my home office and sat at my desk. My hands weren't shaking, my head was clear. I opened my laptop and pulled up our family accounts, phone plans, streaming services, car insurance, mortgage, utilities, every single thing in my name. I started writing a list, not out of anger, but out of logic, out of clarity. Halfway through the list, Tiffany came home. I heard her keys drop in the hallway, then her voice calling, Mark, what's going on? Jason said you threatened him. I didn't look up. He broke Andrew's snow globe. Her tone softened, like she hadn't heard me right. What? The one Sarah gave him? Smashed it, I said, still typing, then laughed about it. Oh my God, she whispered. Yeah, I said. And then he told me I'm not his dad. Mark, he's 16. I stopped typing and turned to face her. And I'm 42. I've lived long enough to know when I'm being disrespected in my own home. She stared at me, stunned. What are you doing? Making a list, I said. Everything in this house that's in my name, everything I pay for. If Jason doesn't think I'm a parent, fine, but that means I'm not responsible for him either. She shook her head slowly. You can't just... I can, I said, cutting her off. And I will. She didn't say anything else, just stood there, arms crossed, trying to understand that I wasn't bluffing. When she finally walked away, I sat back in the chair and looked at the list again. It wasn't about revenge. It was about respect, about showing that every action comes with a cost. I folded the paper, placed it neatly on the desk, and turned off the light. If I'm not their parent, I said quietly to the empty room, then I'm not responsible for them either. The next morning I woke up before sunrise. I didn't even bother with coffee at first, just sat at the kitchen table staring at the list I'd written the night before. The decision had already been made. Now it was time to follow through. At 6 a.m., I started making calls. First, the phone provider removed 2 lines, Jason and Chloe. The woman on the other end asked if I was sure. I said yes. Streaming services, passwords changed, cable, canceled. By 9 a.m., my house was quieter than usual. Jason and Chloe's phones were cut off, and for the first time in months I felt in control. I'd only shut off their lines. The rest of the house still had service. No need to punish everyone, just the ones who'd earned it. Tiffany didn't notice at first. She was at work, and Jason was still sleeping when I unplugged his game console and set it on the kitchen counter. By noon, the neighborhood grapevine was already buzzing. When I stepped outside to put the trash out, Mrs. Lawson from across the street waved me over. I heard about what happened with Jason, she said carefully. Don't let anyone make you feel bad, Mark. Everyone around here knows those kids have been trouble since day one. I nodded. Appreciate that, Mrs. Lawson. She lowered her voice. You're doing the right thing. My husband and I have seen it. Those kids talk back to you like you're some stranger. I don't know how you've stayed so patient. Trying to set things straight now? I said simply. She gave a sympathetic smile. About time. When I went back inside, Jason was standing in the living room with his dead phone in his hand, face twisted in disbelief. Why isn't my phone working? He demanded. Because it's not in my plan anymore, I said flatly. Neither is Chloe's. He laughed once, like I'd told a bad joke. You can't do that! I just did. You're insane, he said. Mom's going to lose it. Maybe, I said, picking up the modem from the counter. But at least you'll have a signal to call your dad. He followed me down the hallway, voice rising. You can't just kick us out because you're mad. I'm not mad, I said calmly. I'm finished. He stormed off, slamming his door hard enough to rattle the frame. Tiffany came home that night just as I was making dinner for Maya and Andrew. The younger two were quiet but relaxed. Andrew humming softly, Maya setting the table. It felt like an actual family meal again. Tiffany dropped her purse on the counter. What did you do? Handled the situation, I said without looking up. Jason said you canceled their phones, Mark. That's not handling things, that's punishing them. It's called consequences, I said. They're kids. I finally turned to face her. They're 16 and 14, not toddlers. They know exactly what they're doing. Her voice cracked with anger. You're being harsh. I set down the spatula and took a step closer. No, I'm being a parent, something you haven't been doing lately. Her eyes narrowed. Excuse me? You've been enabling them, Tiffany. Every time they cross a line, you make an excuse. Every time they disrespect me, you tell me to give it time. Well, time's up. They've pushed too far, and I'm not tolerating it anymore. Tears welled in her eyes. But I didn't stop. You've spoiled them, and you've let them poison this house. I won't let them turn Maya and Andrew into the same kind of entitled kids. If that means this relationship ends, then so be it. She went quiet, staring at me like she didn't recognize the man standing in front of her. Then she whispered, You're serious. Dead serious. She turned away, muttering, I can't even talk to you right now, and disappeared into the bedroom. I let her go. There was nothing left to say. The next morning, I packed Jason and Chloe's things. Clothes, shoes, their electronics, whatever they had in shared spaces. I folded everything neatly into boxes and set them by the front door. Then I called a locksmith. When the man arrived, I stood outside while he worked, watching the new locks go in one by one. It felt final, like closing a chapter I hadn't realized was poisoning the story. As he handed me the new keys, he said, Rough week, huh? You could say that. He nodded, professional but kind. Sometimes you gotta draw the line. Yeah, I said quietly. Sometimes you do. When Tiffany came home that afternoon, she couldn't get the door open. I opened it for her, standing in the frame. What is this? She asked, panic in her eyes. I changed the locks, I said. Jason and Chloe's things are packed. You can call David or take them yourself. Either way, they're not coming back inside until they learn some respect. Her mouth fell open. Mark, you can't. I can, I said, steady as stone. And I did. David showed up an hour later. He looked uncomfortable the second he stepped out of his car. Tiffany called me, he said. Said it's bad. It's bad because your son broke something that belonged to my dead wife and laughed about it. David sighed. He told me. Said he didn't mean it. He meant it, I said. And he's going to live with it. He rubbed the back of his neck. This seems extreme. I met his eyes. If your son told you you weren't his parent, that he didn't have to listen to you, and that your kids didn't matter, what would you do? David looked down. Probably the same thing. Then we're good. Jason and Chloe came out, faces pale, carrying their boxes. They didn't say a word. Jason avoided my eyes. Chloe sniffled quietly. As they got into David's car, Jason hesitated. Is this really it? This is what happens when you burn through every chance you were given, I said. He nodded once and got in. Tiffany didn't speak while they drove away. She just stood there on the porch, arms crossed, tears streaking her cheeks. I handed Tiffany a new key. Jason and Chloe would not get copies. When the taillights disappeared, I went back inside. The house was silent. No yelling, no slamming doors, no tension humming under every word. I sat down at the kitchen table, the same spot where I'd made my list, and let the quiet fill the room. It wasn't peace exactly, but it was something close. Heartbroken, yes, but resolved. The next morning, the house felt like it was holding its breath. No music blaring from Jason's room, no Chloe humming in front of the mirror, just silence and the faint sound of Maya and Andrew whispering in the kitchen. I poured myself some coffee and sat down. They froze when I entered, like they'd been caught doing something wrong. "You two okay?" I asked. Maya looked at Andrew first, then said, "It's just quiet." "Good or bad quiet?" I asked. She hesitated. "Good." Andrew fidgeted with his spoon. "I kind of like it, Dad. Nobody's yelling or calling names anymore." That one hit harder than I expected. I realized how long my kids had been walking on eggshells in their own home. "You don't have to feel bad about that," I said. "It's okay to breathe again." They both nodded, and for the first time in months, breakfast didn't feel like a minefield. By afternoon, the quiet turned into reflection. Tiffany hadn't said more than a few words since last night. She stayed in the bedroom most of the morning, then finally came out, eyes red from crying. "We need to talk," she said. "Yeah," I said, setting down my mug. She sat across from me at the table, hands clasped. "I don't even know who you are right now, Mark. You've been cold, hard. I know Jason messed up, but throwing them out, they're still kids." I took a slow breath. "They're old enough to know right from wrong. You know that." "They're hurt," she said. "And so are mine," I said evenly. "Do you even realize what they've been through these past months? Jason calling me names, Chloe lying to neighbors, both of them turning my own kids against me. They needed to learn there are limits." Tiffany rubbed her forehead. After the divorce, I was scared. I didn't want to lose them again, so I let things slide. And by doing that," I said quietly, "you almost lost this family too." Her eyes welled again, but this time there was understanding behind it. "Maybe you're right," she whispered. We didn't say much after that. She went upstairs. I stayed at the table, staring out the window, watching the light shift across the yard. That evening, my phone buzzed, a number I didn't recognize until I opened the message. "Hey, this is Jason. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said what I said about the snow globe, about you." I read it twice, then 3 times. The kid who told me I wasn't his dad was now the one reaching out first. I didn't reply. Not yet. I wanted it to mean something when I did. 2 days later, David stopped by. He pulled into the driveway and stepped out looking tired but calm. "Got a minute?" he asked. "Sure," I said, meeting him halfway down the driveway. He leaned against his car. "I didn't come to argue. I just wanted to say they're starting to get it. Jason's been quiet. Real quiet. He even helped me clean the garage yesterday without being asked." "That's a first," I said dryly. David chuckled. "Yeah. He told me he screwed up bad. Said you were right about respect." Chloe cried for a while. She misses her mom and Maya. I crossed my arms. I didn't want it to come to this, but they needed a line drawn. He nodded. "You did what I couldn't. I kept trying to be their buddy after the divorce. I think they needed someone to be their wall, not their friend. That stuck with me." "You're a good dad, David," I said. "They'll come around." He extended his hand. "So are you, Mark." We shook. No hostility between us anymore, just mutual understanding. 2 men trying to hold broken families together the only way we knew how. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table again, the same spot where all this started. On the counter, Andrew's broken snow globe base was still there. The glass long gone, but the little cabin inside still intact. I picked it up and turned it over in my hands. The next morning, Tiffany came down early. She saw the snow globe on the table and stopped. "You fixed it." I nodded. "It's not what it was, but it's standing." She looked at me, eyes full of exhaustion and guilt. "Mark," she said quietly, "I'm sorry for letting it get this bad. I was scared to lose my kids again after the divorce. I thought being soft would keep them close, but all it did was make them lose respect for me and for you." I put a hand on hers. "Then let's start over together this time." For the first time in months, she smiled. A real one. We didn't know what came next, but at least now we were finally on the same side. A week later, Tiffany sat across from me at the kitchen table, a notebook open between us. For once, we weren't arguing. We were planning. They want to come home, she said quietly. David called again. He said Jason's been asking every day. I nodded. If they come back, it's not going to be the same as before. This time there are rules and everyone follows them. No exceptions. She agreed. I know. What kind of rules are we talking about? I leaned forward. Rule number 1, respect every adult in this house. That means no attitude, no talking back, and no ignoring what I say just because it doesn't come from you. Tiffany nodded slowly, writing it down. And the second, I said. Jason gets a part-time job. He's 16. He needs to learn what responsibility actually feels like. He wants a phone? Fine, he can pay for it. He wants independence? He can earn it. She hesitated for a second, but then nodded. That's fair. We finalized everything before calling David. When I explained the rules, he didn't argue. It's about time, he said. They'll agree. That Saturday, his car pulled into the driveway. I stood by the front door, hands in my pockets, trying to read Jason and Chloe's faces through the window. Both looked nervous. Jason's head was down. Chloe clutched her backpack like it was a shield. When they stepped inside, the air was thick with awkwardness. Andrew and Maya peeked from the hallway, curious but cautious. Tiffany spoke first. Before anything else, we need to talk about how things are going to be from now on. Jason nodded. Okay. I motioned for them to sit. Here's the deal, I said evenly. You don't have to call me Dad. You don't have to pretend we're best friends. But you will respect me. You'll respect this house, your mom, and each other. No more lies, no more disrespect. Understood? They both nodded. And Jason, I continued, you're getting a part-time job. I don't care if it's bagging groceries or sweeping floors, but you're going to learn what it means to earn something. He looked up at me, surprised but not angry. Okay, he said quietly, I can do that. Good, I said. Then we'll start over. The first few days were awkward but calmer. Jason kept to himself mostly, but there was no attitude. Chloe helped Tiffany with dinner without being asked. Even Maya and Andrew seemed relieved that things didn't explode the second they walked in the room. A week later, Jason came home from his first shift at a local grocery store. He looked exhausted but proud. I bagged groceries for 4 hours, he said. Didn't realize how hard it was standing that long. Welcome to real life, I said, hiding a grin. Over the next few weeks, small changes started stacking up. Jason started asking if we needed anything before heading to work. Chloe offered to help Maya with homework. Andrew laughed more. Even Tiffany seemed lighter, like she'd been holding her breath for months and finally exhaled. One evening, I was fixing a shelf in the garage when Jason came in. He leaned against the doorframe, hands in his pockets. Hey, he said awkwardly. Hey, I said, not looking up. How's work? Not bad. Manager said I'm doing good. Good to hear. He was quiet for a moment, then said, I wanted to say thanks. For what? For not giving up on us. I was a jerk. I said things I didn't mean. You didn't have to take us back. I looked at him then. You earned your way back, I said simply. Just keep doing the right thing. He nodded. I will. That night I walked through the house and realized how different it felt. There was laughter again, not tension. The kitchen wasn't silent during dinner. Everyone talked, even joked. The cracks were still there. You could feel them sometimes, but they were healing slowly. Honestly, sometimes being the bad guy for a while is the only way to save a family. I didn't just win back respect, I earned a family. And this time, it feels real.